Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to The Breakdown. I am Tara Setmayer. This is the Rick Wilson, and we are here. We are hours away from Election Day. Hard to imagine, but we're here. And tonight, we'll be joined by our Lincoln Project brethren, Michael Steele and Mike Madrid. And of course, we want to hear from you. Hashtag #AskTheBreakdown. Send us your tweets, ask us your questions, and we're going to break it down new school with the live callers. Join the Zoom room. There's the meeting ID. Join us, and we may invite you on air for a live Q&A. Rick, I mean, it has been no sleep till Biden, and
it has been.
I'm telling you, the Lincoln Project has been churning them out. You guys have been working overtime in the final days. And I just want to sit back and appreciate not only the good works of you guys and the production team and everyone that's worked so hard on the ground for this, but can we just say yay, democracy? There's been almost 100 million early votes. 100 million. Yep. That is extraordinary. And we've been every night cataloging how it's crept up and up and up, and how many people early voted. And I mean, Texas is past 100% of their vote from last time around. So is Hawaii. Other states are in the 90s. It's incredible. But you know what else has been incredible? The freaking Trump death cult. I've been calling it a cult for a long time, and I've now called it a death cult because it's officially that. The response to coronavirus has just been so abysmal. We're reaching record numbers of people infected. Trump is still running around the country having these super spreader events. Stanford University now has come out with a study that has said that their statistical model, their economists said that there have been at least 30,000 coronavirus infections and 700 deaths as a direct result of Trump rallies held from June to September. This is insane. And then to add to the insanity,
it is.
The other night, there was a midnight rally in your home state of Florida, Rick, in Opelika, down there, and is that Broward or Dade? Right down there. Yeah, I know, of course. Where these rubes were actually chanting, "Fire Fauci." Because Dr. Fauci he's unleashed now. He finally said, I don't give a fuck anymore. And he's been out there telling people like it is, because we're in such dire straits now with coronavirus. And he is now public enemy number one by this White House. And then these idiots are chanting, "Fire Fauci." And what does Trump say? Yeah, give me a couple of days. Let me win. And then give me a couple of days. He's actually considering firing Dr. Fauci, a world-renowned epidemiologist who served this country with honor and distinction for decades. And this is who Trump wants to fire. So I think this is a good time for us to roll out one of our newest Lincoln Project ads, narrated by the Harrison Ford, called Tomorrow.
Dr. Anthony Fauci has served as director for the National Institute of Infectious Diseases since 1984. He has served the American people tirelessly, honorably, and selflessly, from Reagan to Bush, to Clinton, to Bush, to Obama, and now to Trump.
Don't tell anybody, but let me wait till a little bit after the election. I appreciate the advice. I appreciate it.
Tomorrow, you can fire only one of them. The choice is yours.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Well
done.
Tara, this is, I thought, was a perfect summary. We're deeply grateful to Harrison Ford for volunteering to voice that script today. It is something, and for the creative folks that helped us put that together, you know who you are, and I really appreciate your assistance on this one today. But it tells a very direct choice for this country. It is the choice between showmanship and expertise. It is the choice between life and death, between health and pandemic. And Donald Trump, his super spreader paloozas around the country have been, as you mentioned, now proven to be part of this, the spread of this disease and a fatal part of it, as we've learned. But also, he's been leaving his people out in the cold at night on these rallies for the third time now. We've had people stranded because the Trump campaign only pays for the buses to go in one way. And so, as my friend Hillary Luros says, come for the COVID, stay for the hypothermia.
Well, they don't give a damn about what happens after they get the photo op.
No.
Right? They bring them in. Yes, let's get the photo op. Yay, we can, cheer. And then it's like, we're out of here, on to the next one. I mean, it's so obvious that Trump doesn't give a damn about his people. But yet, there they are.
It really is. And yet, the death cult analogy here is, as you pointed out, increasingly vivid. And so, Trump is pushing through with the last series of campaign rally events this evening. There will be, a last little bit of COVID spreading around. And a few weeks from now, all these people will, a fraction of them will pay a price for this. Some of them will pay with their lives for the moment of being on stage or watching Donald Trump prance around on stage and do his whatever that dance is, and to be out there, making outrageous claims and outrageous promises, and doing things like promising to fire one of the few experts in the government who actually understands how to mitigate a disease like COVID. Unlike that buffoon Scott Atlas who works in the White House, who does not understand how to mitigate COVID, who believes in the herd immunity theory that's going to kill a couple million Americans. So it definitely is one of those things that clarifies in the last night before the election just where this country stands. And I wrote a big piece in the Daily Beast today about some of that. And can we bring up that headline? As usual, I am fairly blunt in my wording here. One thing that's going to happen tomorrow is that Donald Trump is going to go out at some point in the evening, probably very early in the evening, before we have a hard electoral college count or vote counts in most states, and he's going to declare victory. And I'm going to give my Democratic friends a lesson from 2000. Never, ever, 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 ever concede anything until all the votes are counted. They're going to try to roll you over. They're going to try to roll over the Biden campaign. If any of our friends from the Biden campaign are watching, hold the line. Here's my philosophy. Here's my mantra. Fuck you, keep counting. Stay in line. If you were in line at a polling place anywhere in this country and they say they're closing, fuck you, keep counting. Stay with it. If you hear that they're going to stop counting ballots or they're going to try to ignore ballots from overseas soldiers coming in a day late, fuck you, keep counting. I will tell you this from the bottom of my heart. These people will try to bluff this country into believing Donald Trump won this election when he has not. Fox News will declare it. His whole media apparatus will declare that it's done, it's over, it's cooked. This election is going to require the diligence of every voter to stay in line until the bitter damn end. Also, it's the last night. I'm going to say this one more time. I'm on stage with Abe right now. We're in a COVID pod. Yes, it gets a little weird living with Abe all the time. We're in a COVID pod. We get tested constantly. There's never a day that goes by where someone doesn't have something rammed up their nose to be tested. So we are safe in our COVID pod, and we encourage all of you to also be safe tomorrow. When you go out to vote, please wear a mask. Please practice social distancing, but vote. Get out, make a plan, get out there as early as you can tomorrow. The lines are going to be long. It's going to be tough in some places. Make friends in the line so you can swap out, get water, go pee, do whatever you got to do, but stay in line and vote. If you're in Atlanta tomorrow, you're going to see some Lincoln Project stuff going on with our good friend Nate Nesbitt. He has got Offset from the Migos traveling around the city to do voter rallies and to do a couple of concerts. We've got food trucks in Atlanta going around tomorrow for folks waiting in line to vote. because we've identified Atlanta as one of the places with the shittiest governors in America who has made voting deliberately more difficult. And so we've decided we're going to try to offset that a little bit, if you'll pardon my pun. Anyway,
So, Rick,
just remember, folks, fuck you. Keep counting.
I love the homage. A, it's super on brand. B, I love the homage to Goodfellas. Fuck you, pay me, for those who didn't get it. It's awesome. And in this case, one of the greatest movies ever, by the way.
Yes.
It's appropriate at this point. Donald Trump is basically telling Americans, F you, vote for me, drop dead and vote, like Paul Begala said. And we're saying, F you back, keep counting the votes. With that, let's roll Meanwhile.
Don't tell anybody, but let me wait till a little bit after the election.
The administration's response to the coronavirus is absolutely on the ballot, and the cases are up.
The largest number of new cases recorded in a single day by any country in the world.
The president is holding 5 rallies today, including some in coronavirus hotspots.
Would you say it's windy enough tonight? Would you say? By the way, do you think it could be any windier up here? Freezing up here, I'm freezing. You better get out and vote.
Shit, look at that. Oh my God.
Do you see the way our people, they were protecting his bus yesterday. Really, I think very good people. And now they say, will you respect the decision of the voters? And will there be a friendly transition? First of all, there's not going to be a transition. We're winning.
A new polling tells us Biden does have the opportunity for a statement map-changing win.
Texas could be a battleground state this year.
9.5 million people cast ballots during the early voting period. That's more than the entire vote from 2016.
And we think it's a ridiculous decision. Thank you.
It's time for Donald Trump to pack his bags and go home.
Pack his bag. F you, pack your bags. I can tell there's going to be a theme tonight with this. I love it. I'm from Jersey. Anytime we can drop F-bombs, it's a good day. It's a good night. I saw in our Meanwhile that there was a clip there about the court case in Texas where 127,000 ballots were possibly at risk of being thrown out because Republicans were continuing to voter suppress and didn't want the drive-through ballots to count. The judge said, get the hell out of here. He said, F you, count them. And so I want to make a note that Lincoln Project did join an amicus brief on that case. And so we have been actively involved in these things all over the place, even in places you wouldn't expect. So shout out to our legal team for that. So let's bring in Michael Steele, former Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, former RNC chair, Lincoln Project senior advisor, and my good friend for many years. Michael Steele, welcome. Do we hear you? What's happening?
I wish you were on stage with me and Abe.
Yeah, look,
I'm
just telling you, folks. Rick, you slay me every time, brother. I never want to be at the tip of your spear ever. There is no upside to that arrangement at all. How you guys doing? It's great to be with you. It's always, we're election eve, and baby, I am like, let's go. I see Lincoln in the house. I got Tara and Rick. I'm good to go.
You want to know something, Mike?
Shit's getting loose.
Yeah, you want to know something funny? So you said that you never want to be on that tip of the spear, on the other side of Rick Wilson. Earlier tonight, I was joined by my my Harvard IOP folks, or was it with the Harvard group or no, it was the UVA group. It's all coming in together. I'm a resident scholar over at the UVA Center for Politics also. And one of the students asked me, what's the difference between what you guys do at the Lincoln Project and Republicans, why you're so successful, versus the Democrats? And I said 2 words. We have Rick Wilson.
I'm telling you.
We have Rick Wilson.
Truth. Yeah.
Can I just put it? Let's just put it on the street. If I had Rick Wilson with me at the RNC in 2010, it would have been 120 seats in the House. And I'd probably still be chairman because I would kick all their asses out. That's how that worked.
That's right. And and Mitt Romney would have been elected president.
Right?
There would have been no pussyfooting around like the Mitt Romney campaign did, playing it too damn cautious.
Oh my God! No, it's
Mike Madrid.
Yes.
It's what
well, we are
down here. Our other Lincoln Project brethren, co-founder and political director, Mike Madrid. Hello. Well,
Mike knows all those things that I just sort of avoid, like math.
Yeah.
That's
Do I
what
look
Mike
like Lincoln too? Was that sly enough?
No.
To replace Abraham Lincoln.
We're gonna get all the hats.
Can you tell?
There was nothing about that at all.
Hey Rick, I was consulting our boy Mike on math today. I was like, okay, so just break it down for me, baby. How we doing? What are the numbers?
Well, that is why Mike is a vital part of our organization and a vital part of this campaign, because he has built a model to leverage the resources we've been able to bring to bear here, and to give us targets and to give us ways to reach those targets that few other people could have done. And we are very excited to bring this thing in for a landing.
We're close now, guys. We're close. It's real. It's happening tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's actually, within 14 hours from now, there will be people lined up in cities across this country, maybe even sooner, lined up in cities across this country to take part in the oldest constitutional republic in the world, where we're going to go out and make a decision about what kind of country we want to be in the future.
That's it.
So we're going to have a hell of a day tomorrow. Our team has they've left every single thing on the field. We're enormously proud of the work they've done. And folks, it's over to you. You got to get out there in the morning, and you got to wait. You got to stand in line. You got to push this thing all the way over the goal. We got to do this as long as it takes tomorrow. And again, the simple rule: fuck you, keep counting. So with that, Tara, let's get back to our guests.
Oh my God, I love this.
Hashtag of the year.
I'm telling you, I love it. That actually leads me into a question I have for both of you, both Michael Steele and Mike Madrid. Mike Squared. This idea that Trump is going to try to declare victory tomorrow night, if he's ahead at any point, is something that I think a lot of people are concerned about. And I don't understand why these dumbasses telegraphed this on Sunday, that this is what they were going to do, so that we could all be prepared for 48 hours to warn people not to listen to them. Is the Biden campaign ready for this? Are we ready for this? I'm worried about it. People keep asking me, what do you think? How do you feel? I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think Biden's going to win, but I'm worried about the freaking chaos. Am I overreacting here?
Which one do you
Michael
want to
Steele.
That's yours. You're the chaos guy.
I'm the
You're
chaos guy.
You run
I
with
do
and I'll follow
chaos.
you.
Yeah, I do chaos. They ain't no shit about that. I do chaos. So a couple of things. One, what Donald Trump said was not a cue for Lincoln Project. It was not a cue for rational Americans. It was a cue for his rank and file sycophants, to let them know it was his equivalent of stand back, stand by, whatever. Just don't worry. We got this. You're going to get the call. I'm going to say it's over, and you know what you got to do. You start making your noise. How we prepare for that is important. But with 93 million, likely by the time they do the final count going in tomorrow, close to 100 million people having voted prior to November 3rd, I think that the numbers will have just overwhelmed the system. And there is no amount of whatever Trump says tomorrow that's really going to make a difference. When Georgia drops, when Nevada drops, when Michigan drops, it's going to be very hard to get that kind of narrative going. At what point does he come out and say that? I think a lot of people, and Rick's hashtag puts into words what a lot of people feel about tomorrow, is that they want to see the count. A lot of Americans want to see the count. And I think that the president's going to have a hard time with that. So we'll be ready for it. We will. And I think a lot of folks out there will be. Secretaries of States are planning for something coming from the White House or from this president. And I think the thing that's going to be important is for everybody to keep a cool head, and just get out there and vote and stay in that line. Once you're in the line, they can't close the polls, baby. Once you're in the line, they can't close the polls. So,
That's right.
Everybody get in that line.
That's right.
And if you need to order pizza delivery to the line, order pizza delivery to the line, baby. Don't get out of the line. Just stay there and cast your ballot.
That's right. Because like the words of Professor Larry Sabato over there at UVA, the people who vote determine the government you get. You have to show up. They're the ones that make the determination. So if you are not a part of it, then don't complain about the government you get. So I'm encouraged that there's lots of folks that have said enough is enough and gotten off their asses and went out and voted this year, because look at the numbers. The numbers speak for themselves. And that leads me, Mike Madrid, to the youth vote. So shout out to the Harvard Institute of Politics and the youth poll. I addressed my Harvard IOP folks today about some pre-election stuff, and they released this youth poll, the final youth poll for the year, a couple days ago, and it showed that 18 to 29-year-olds actually have a 22% increase in favorability for Biden since they did the poll in the spring. And it looks like, from what I've seen, the numbers for the 18 to 29-year-old vote in many states, especially battleground states like Michigan and Florida, have been through the roof this time. Do you think it'll surpass the historic 2008 turnout that we saw? I'm feeling pretty good about this, about the Gen Zers.
Yeah, look, we're up about 31% with that demographic over last election's numbers. I do believe it will surpass the 2008 numbers, probably by a wide margin. But I want you to keep in mind, it's not just this vote. This is a critical vote. It's a vote that breaks decidedly for Joe Biden. You are seeing enormous turnout, the likes of which we have never seen before. Over 93 million votes cast. Michael Steele and I were talking this morning. If 60 million people show up tomorrow, that's over 153 million people. That is a record by many, many millions. And we all know that Donald Trump's entire strategy has been trying to focus and energize his base. Folks, there's not that much base out there to be energized. If you look at every election that has been held since 2016's November election, including the regularly scheduled midterms and special elections, the Democratic base has been dramatically overperforming. Why would it be any different when we're into the Super Bowl of this whole thing, which people have been waiting for 3.5, 4 years to cast their ballots? This is a sign of extraordinarily high historic turnout. All of the demographics to this point suggest very strongly that Joe Biden is sitting on a substantial lead at this moment. There will be a Republican edge on the day of voting. But again, as Michael Steele and I talked about, I don't want you to be discounting a historic turnout from Black voters and from Hispanic voters, which overwhelmingly are day of election voters. And for the first time in history, we're going to have these 4, 5, 6 hour long lines with rural white Republicans, Black and Hispanic voters. It's going to be a dash to see who's willing to stay in line 4 or 5 hours long enough to cast their vote. I know where I'm putting my marker. We'll see what's going to happen.
There are so many people who've said that they would crawl over glass to vote this time. I can't remember so many people making comments like that. Go ahead, Michael Steele.
Yeah. I just really want to emphasize what Mike said, because I think a lot of folks kind of looking at this, sort of antiseptically, because you have not seen this overwhelming thrust of Black and Hispanic voters going with the early balloting effort and showing up at early poll places. It's just not in our nature. We don't trust the system. We know that the most precious thing we have is this ballot when we go to use it. And we want to make sure that we get to cast it. I don't want to stick it in a box by a library 3 blocks from my house. I want to walk. I will drive a mile to a polling place and stand in line for 4 hours so that I can physically check the box and then put it in the machine and watch that process. That is our nature because of how we have been treated in this system.
Mm-hmm.
And what the Trump team has done is reinforced that negative treatment by trying to shut down the postal service on us, move postal boxes out of our communities, create draconian laws within several states like Texas and elsewhere that now try to take our ballots that we have cast early and get them tossed out before they're even counted. So people need to understand that, yeah, blacks and Hispanics have been to sit back going, don't worry, we'll wait. We'll wait.
Right.
We got all day. We'll wait. This is not a problem for us.
You know what, Michael? That's actually a good thing. I was going to run an ad, but I'm going to talk to you about this really quickly first. Then we have an ad to run, and then we have a caller. Over the weekend, we had an amazing panel that we sponsored with Revolt TV that was put together by Nate Nesbitt, who Nate has been kicking ass. Shout out to Nate, who's on the ground in Atlanta. Rick talked about his efforts this tomorrow with Offset. Offset with the Migos was part of this panel. T.I. was part of this panel. Yellow Pain, Big Tigger, and Bakari Sellers, and Lee Merritt. And they were talking about, it was called Vote or Die. And it was about the impact of the vote and the black male vote. And it was an excellent panel because something Republicans have never done before, by the way. I just want you to know this. Republicans are very gun shy about partnering with certain black organizations. They have never kept it that real. And it was real on Saturday because they were talking about how they were learning about civics and how they didn't care about these things before. And now they're kind of being awakened to the importance of voting and why it matters, even at a local level. It was encouraging for me to see this, these young black brothers, some with felony convictions, talking about how they were discouraged to vote, didn't know their rights, and encouraging black men to know their rights and get out there and vote. We're seeing in places like Miami-Dade that we're having some lag with the black male vote, and that black men aren't going to come out for Biden the way they did for Obama, or even close to that. What do you think? Are you worried about that, or do you think that what you said is going to happen on the final day?
I think part of that will play itself out where Trump has been able to play the sort of gangster card with a lot of these guys in the sense that, he's the tough man. I know I was talking to a number of my, Latino friends who were saying that's, he appeals to that sort of machismo within the culture. And that's fine. Okay. The same is true with a lot of African-American men of a certain age who kind of remember the whole, particularly they liked Trump at one point in the rap community. I mean, he was really kind of down with a lot of that. So it is what it is. I think by and large, though, what you will see, and I thought James Clyburn, Majority Whip in the House, put it the best in an interview in which he said that I don't understand how a black man can vote for Donald Trump. He went on to say, I am the son of a black woman. I am the father of a black daughter. And any man who would refer to a black female as a dog, I don't understand how you would do that, how you could support that person. And that crystallized for me, and I know a number of folks, the reality of this moment, that you are embracing someone who looks at your mother and your grandmother, your sister and your wife as something less than. Because as you know, in our community, it's same is true in the Hispanic community. When you go after our women, you're going after us. You're going after the heart and soul of our community. Right. So I think that's something that we'll see how it plays out. But that type of resonance on that issue may actually wind up hurting Trump more than helping him, given the truth of what this means at this time.
Michael Eric Dyson had a good tweet about that, you have to go and look at it, but it's to that point, and he puts it very real and raw.
Yep.
Mike Madrid, isn't there a similar machismo gender gap thing going on with Latino men, particularly in Florida as well, with Donald Trump? Do we have to be worried about that?
Look, I think I think that there's a number of things that play with the Latino vote. Sorry, there's a number of things that play with the Latino vote that I think are a little bit perplexing. We've seen some early numbers that suggest there's a little bit more Trumpiness, especially with U.S.-born Hispanic males. Been talking about this for a little while. There's an extraordinary gender gap between Hispanic men and women, especially, again, U.S.-born and younger folks. Latinas are like African-American women, extremely, extremely opposed to Donald Trump, tend to be the drivers of both public opinion and civic mobilization in our homes, in our families, in our communities. But, and this is very important, what we've also seen is that Trumpiness is not very sticky. What do I mean by that? What I mean is when we start to communicate to these voters, with a cultural message, talking about the offensiveness and the offensive nature and reminding some of these folks that don't watch cable news or read Twitter as much as you and I might do, to Michael Steele's point, they come back into the fold and recognize, as much as I may have this person idolized as a successful businessman, this is offensive to my community, this is offensive to my mother, my daughter, my children, and this is not something that's going to be acceptable. And I believe very firmly that not only will we see a historic Hispanic turnout, we're going to see it follow the traditional 30-year trajectory that we have seen in presidential campaigns, where you'll get an overall national vote of about 26%, which puts Joe Biden in a very strong position in states like Arizona and in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Let's bring in our first caller. Hi, Terry. Where are you from? Welcome.
Which is a little east of Stockton, California, San Joaquin County, out here in the walnut orchards.
Yep.
Hometown of Aaron Judge.
Yes. Go Yankees.
Okay.
So my question has to do with future plans down the road. Using your vast talents to address the corruption in the Republican Party in Congress, and maybe any plans for going after the white nationalists, the David Dukes, Richard Spencers of the world.
Yes.
Rick,
Terry, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that question, Terry. First off, the Lincoln Project. This is a super PAC that has built a movement, and we're enormously honored by that. And that movement wants us to stay in this fight, to keep up these battles. So you'll see us later this week dealing with whoever's in the Georgia runoff, and possibly, hypothetically, in the Louisiana and Mississippi runoffs as well. And if those are all four on deck, there'll be possibly two in Georgia, one in Mississippi, one in Alabama, or one in Louisiana. You know, we're going to get about a 24-hour period to get a little sleep and then get back in the fight. We will be going forward, as we said from the beginning. Our mission in this organization is to defeat Donald Trump and Trumpism and its enablers. So we're going to be pushing forward in 2022 and possibly 2024, not only in the Senate side, but against whoever becomes the Trumpist part of the Republican base. You know, we believe Trumpism has to be extinguished in this country. We believe that the people that are promoting it and supporting it are part of a pernicious, anti-American, anti-small d democratic movement that has no place in this country and no place in this republic. So, Terry, thank you so much for your question. We appreciate your support, and we'll stay in the fight.
You know, Rick, that's one of the most popular questions that we get asked all the time is what's next? Are you guys going to stay in the fight?
Yeah.
You know, I was asked that a couple times today, and even internationally, I said, absolutely. We are a pro-democracy movement, and it doesn't end on November 4th. So we're not going anywhere, folks. You know, Rick has been re-emphasizing tonight the importance of voting and the importance of counting those votes, and that there may be more votes to count after the polls close tomorrow because of election rules in different states. And absentee ballots are incredibly important. And our military they vote absentee ballot. That's, Trump is trying to disenfranchise them also. And we were talking about the Harvard Youth poll before. So since we are reliving our youths a little bit right now, we had another person from the Star Wars universe who narrated an ad for us, the one and only Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker himself. Who better than when we're fighting darkness versus light versus darkness, than Luke Skywalker himself to narrate an ad for Lincoln Project about absentee balloting. Roll it.
The signing of the Declaration of Independence.
Tyranny didn't end with the American Revolution. Not for everyone. Not by a long shot. Nearly 100 years of elected leadership failed to right that wrong, and Americans went to war with ourselves to fix it. Never before had the truth been so clear. Elections have consequences. It was for this reason that Union soldiers who lived and died by those consequences were able to vote despite being far from home. This was how absentee voting began. Sent from the bloody battlefields across the nation. Now, more than 150 years later, tyranny is looking for a new foothold. President Trump has called for the election to be decided on, and only on, those ballots that arrive by November 3rd. If he gets his way, many who cast absentee ballots will not have their vote counted. This will deny thousands of troops serving overseas of their most sacred right. Stripping the men and women in our military of the very freedoms they've served and sacrificed to defend. It cannot be allowed to happen. Donald Trump doesn't get to decide the future of America's leadership. The American people do. Make every vote count. And count every vote. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
We are very proud of that ad, not just because Mark Hamill was gracious enough to help voice it, but because it is something very near and dear to the mission and the hearts of the Lincoln Project. Our veterans coordinator, Fred Wellman, reached out to Mark. We made this happen, and Mark did this for us in a very, very short time frame. And our great editors put it together in a very short time frame. But it is a vital message. Part of what Donald Trump's campaign is proposing is that American military service members who vote from overseas, if their ballots are postmarked well in advance but don't arrive in the States in time, they shouldn't be counted. That those men and women in uniform should be disenfranchised. It doesn't surprise anyone here, because Donald Trump refers to them as babies and dopes and suckers and losers, that he would seek to take away their voice in this election. But again, we were very fortunate to have both Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill in one day in ads for the Lincoln Project. It's a hell of a ride here, folks.
All you need is James Earl Jones,
another caller
for the trifecta.
I wish, right?
Now that's the ultimate voiceover right there. I mean, the Darth Vader voice. Come on.
The Lincoln Project
I
is
know.
responsible for the content of this advertisement.
It would be amazing. James Earl Jones, if you're watching, come on, do the Lincoln Project disclaimer for us, just like you do for CNN. Who's our next caller?
So let's go to another caller. If we've got another caller in the stack.
Paul from Kansas.
All right.
Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, guys? Hey, real quick shout out. My girlfriend wants to make sure and I reinforce. Very prescient. You're grounded. You guys cut to the nut. You call it out early back in May and June. It's crazy how many times I've said, you know what, they told us this is going to happen back in June and May. So really appreciate your pragmatic grounding. Very helpful. Hey, real quick on a couple of local races. I'm in Overland Park, which is Kansas City Metro, and we've got Sharice David seems to solid from what I see in the paper. What do you think about Barbara Boyer? Does she have a shot? And then on the Missouri side, right a couple of miles from here, how about Nicole Galloway shot at the governor in Missouri? Do you think? Any thoughts on those guys?
Well,
Mike Madrid.
I'll take a quick crack at the Kansas race. Yeah, the Senate race. Boyer has actually made Rick and I take some really deep, long stares at that race. It really became a matter of how many new red states we could look at when we were already in places like Alaska and Montana, dipping into Mississippi, the Georgia races. These are all races that we would have predicted in the middle of summer as we were putting our political plan together. But Boyer, I think, has an excellent shot. If we had a little bit more time, we probably would have been played there a little bit more heavily. But I think you're standing in a good position there. I think that may be one of the really big surprises. You know, there's always surprises on election night. We've been looking at the numbers, took a long stare at it. She's exactly the type of candidate that can beat the Republican in Kansas. There was some trouble in that primary. We're excited about it. We think it's a potential, so keep your eyes open for that Senate race in Kansas.
And both Kansas and Missouri have become more educated in the last 5 to 7 years. They're shifting in terms of they were once absolutely deep red states. Kansas, I think, will go purple before Missouri, but both of them are trending in that direction. So I think we have another caller.
I think we have a tweet next, actually, Rick. But before we go there, there it is.
All right.
There it is. Okay. Ask the breakdown. What is the deal with, the Trafalgar pollster group? Mike Madrid, can you please address this? I've been addressing this for days and days now. Go ahead.
Hit it.
We call it Trashfalgar in the headquarters at Lincoln, the Lincoln Project. Yes. Look, there's been this cottage industry of fake polling groups, and so that's why I've always counseled never look at any one individual poll. Consider it a data point. Frankly, we don't consider Trafalgar even a data point. They use a very peculiar methodology that allows them to look at social trends, whatever that means when you're looking at quantitative data, to identify a quote-unquote shy Trump voter. Basically, what it's done is to try to, I think, put out some garbage narrative that the Trump campaign is doing better than it is. There's nothing methodologically sound about it at all. Ignore it.
So Mike, what do you say? I'm going to play devil's advocate with this because my CNN colleague and friend Michael Smerconish has been giving a lot of airtime to Trafalgar. He had the guy on, I forget his name. That was he had him on his radio show, then he had him on CNN over the weekend, and it's obviously gotten a lot of people, shook. They're like, "Wait, hold on, you're scaring the shit out of us here with this," and he is so convinced. He's saying, "Listen, they take money from Republicans and Republican groups." But he says that the polls that they give over to the Real Clear Politics, average of polls, that those aren't paid for, that they pay for them out of their own pockets. So somehow we're supposed to believe that those polls and that methodology is legit because if they're wrong, they would lose their business. What do you say to his defense?
Well, look, I completely understand why there's a lot of anxiety out there because of what happened in 2016. But that fear and that anxiety creates a natural human tendency to look for bad news and look for things that are going to scare you and look for things that aren't normal or average. Folks, there is mountains of data. There are an enormous number of polls showing the trajectory of this race. Trafalgar is the only poll. It is the only thing saying what it is saying. And so from a purely scientific, data-based, evidence-based perspective, it's not something you can take seriously. This is not something that is recognized by modern pollsters in any way, shape, or form as something that is accurate or something that you would rely upon when you were actually running a campaign for a candidate. So I don't want to give it much more airtime than that. I appreciate that. It's designed to create anxiety. It's designed to show an alternative theory, I suppose. But when you've got 40, 50 polls saying one thing and one saying the other, you have to put that in perspective, folks.
Look, wish casting is not a methodological part of survey research. It's just not. And there's a lot of what they build in, like the social desirability index is what they call it.
Right.
And social desirability is a real effect in polling, but when they add that index, they're not doing it based on any sort of scientific research. They're just goosing the numbers. Which is why they have on 538. They have a C- rating as a pollster.
Yeah.
There aren't many D's or F's on 538. Yeah. They're in the lowest quintile of these of survey research.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad
I think we have a voicemail next.
Glad that we addressed that.
I just saw on the internet that if Trump wins Pennsylvania, that Biden would lose. Have you heard anything about that? That scared me. I'm so scared. Good luck to Biden. I want him in there. Bye-bye.
Michael Steele, please comfort her with your gentlemanly words of comfort.
No, that the election isn't over if Biden loses Pennsylvania, because he's going to win Michigan, he's going to win Wisconsin. I think he wins Georgia. I think he wins Nevada. Look, if he just wins Georgia before you even get to the others, as Mike can tell you, that's game, set, match. That's kind of it right there. In so many ways.
Arizona.
With Arizona, yeah. There is a dynamic around Pennsylvania. That even I have my skepticism about some of what's going on in Pennsylvania. Mike can speak a little bit more directly to the numbers there, but this idea that Pennsylvania is not Florida, okay, and so the reality, if you look at every state in the union, the one thing that we do know is that Donald Trump can't lose Florida. He's got a very, very narrow path to 270. Biden's got about 6 or 7. So even if Trump wins Florida, Biden's got a road to his west. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, Biden's got a road up the south. I mean, there are a lot of different ways he can play this election. And again, the one thing that people cannot overlook is the volume of people who have already voted. This is not 2016, all right? You had in the city of Detroit in 2016, over 100,000 African Americans did not vote, all right, in 2016. So you take that, you look at the city of Philadelphia in the great state of Pennsylvania. Black folks stayed home in Philadelphia in 2016. They did not come out. They did not break nowhere near the numbers that was expected for Hillary Clinton in that race. So there are a lot of dynamics right now that just make this 180 degrees off of where we were. And Trump has done nothing on two fronts that everybody on this platform will tell you have to do, especially as an incumbent. One, expand your base in the interim between elections. Between your election and your reelect, you expand your base. And two,
he hasn't done that.
No, he has not done that. And two, when you get into your reelect, right, after you've expanded your base, you give the voters a reason to reelect you. And Trump has not done that either. That's a large measure why you see the numbers the way you are, because they've looked at the last 4 years, and I don't care what state you're from, you've looked at the last 4 years and you've answered two questions for yourself. What kind of country do I want, and what kind of leader do I want to run it? And that's why you see the numbers, I think, the way they are, and why Pennsylvania, you're all right.
And also, Lincoln Project has invested in get out the vote efforts in Philadelphia, working in the Black community there to help boost that along as well. So, we have our hands in all kinds of places and focused in on that as well. And if you noticed, there are people, lines of Black folks in Detroit voting. You did not see that in 2016. You see that there are, they learn those lessons. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, look, if I could add one other quick point here. Look, there's going to be, again, this tendency to see a poll in a certain state showing tightening or hearing a rumor about something going sideways. Keep in mind, Donald Trump basically has to win every state that is in contention. Yes. Not entirely, but pretty much, okay? Yeah. And the battlefield is twice the size that it was in 2016. Those other 6 that have come in contention are all states that were safely in his corner back in 2016. He's got to defend all of them now. So be mindful. Don't look at any one state and say, "Oh my goodness, if we lose Iowa, does that mean that Donald Trump is going to win?" No, he's got 14 other states he's got to win on top of that. So the battlefield has grown significantly. Don't look at any one state. Have a little bit of faith in the overall big numbers, the bigger trajectory, and keep focused on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, can I ask you a question since we're talking
All
about
right.
some states to pay attention to? You've said that people should
Sure.
pay attention to Virginia, which is the first time I've really heard that. I live in Virginia, and I felt pretty comfortable that Virginia was solid blue this time. Lots of voters like me who were,
It is.
Republicans in Northern Virginia, where the meat of the voters are. But you're saying to watch Virginia. Why?
Look, Virginia is a safe Biden state. I'm not suggesting that it's not.
Okay.
Here's what I'm advising for people to have a high level of anxiety of what's going on. Virginia kind of looks like a combination of New Jersey and Alabama stuck together. Okay, there's a lot of blue and deep blue in certain areas, and then there's a lot of red and deep red in the more rural communities. What I really want people to focus on, if you're looking as a way to get an indication of how the rest of the night might go, is take a look at the gap between those two parts of the state that come in early. Virginia is going to be an early reporting state, and you're going to get those numbers in very early. It'll be one of the first states that the networks start to report on. If you start to see a really close race of 1 or 2 points, the same way we did in 2016, it's going to tell you about the overall performance of rural Republican voters on the west side of Virginia that will spill out into Pennsylvania, Ohio, some of the Rust Belt and Great Lakes states, okay? It does not mean that Joe Biden doesn't have a path. It just means that there's something happening with some of these other Rust Belt states. If, in the more likely scenario, you start to see Joe Biden with a 4, 5, 6 point lead early on in Virginia, it probably means he's going to have a very good night, probably early. So it's just one of those indicators. Nothing is certain until all the votes are counted. I think Rick has a hashtag that says something about counting the votes. Keep focused on those votes. Keep focusing on counting the votes. It's just one of those little tricks of the trade that you want to look at early. Don't read a whole hell of a lot into it, but it is something that will tell you about the performance of demographics that we are absolutely watching very closely.
That's good. If you want more of Rick Wilson and his Rick Wilson-isms, tomorrow night I want to remind people that we will have a live election night coverage starting at 8:30. We'll do a pre-election night kind of deal. 9 p.m. we do Best of LPTV, and then we come back at 11 with the whole Lincoln Project crew to break things down and see where we're at around that time. No, we won't be calling any races officially, but we will make some observations about what's going on, and so make sure you join us tomorrow night for that. Rick, I think you have something you want to run.
I think we've got a Trump Bites clip.
Yes.
You guys, I love these things. I get a lot of email about these. We get a lot of messages about the Trump Bite. So let's roll our Trump Bite for the last night before the election. Oh, it's a debut. It's a new one.
I know words. I had the best words. Totally under control. You know, we're at that very low level. We have a total of 15. Of the 15 people, the original 15 as I call them, 8 of them have returned to their homes until fully recovered. As they get better, we take them off the list. So that we're going to be pretty soon at only 5 people. And we could be at just 1 or 2 people over the next short period of time. So we've had very good luck.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Oh my God. That Trump is a better dancer than the real one.
The cough
Right?
did it for me. That was the best part.
God.
It's the wee little paw dance he does.
Yeah. And then the
Not
cough.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Before I go to our next caller, I just want to bring up something because I know a lot of people have been asking us about this because we saw this freaking craziness over the weekend. So Don Jr. went out there and basically put out a call to the Trump lunatics to do these caravans and disrupt traffic. And we saw these happen all over the country. We saw them try to run the Biden bus off the damn road in Texas. We saw, I don't know what the hell's going on in my home state of Jersey. It's got to be South Jersey because North Jersey, we don't take that shit. But they shut down the Garden State Parkway for a while. And then the Tappan Zee Bridge, the new one, well, it's now the Mario Cuomo Bridge, but it'll always be the Tappan Zee Bridge for me. They shut down the bridge. What? This kind of chaos, this intimidation is insane. And something else I saw, which is like borderline freaking fascist. In North Carolina, I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was in a town in North Carolina where there was this march to the polls, and the local police pepper sprayed children and elderly folks during this peaceful march to the polls. Small civil disobedience, and not really, because they weren't getting out of the street enough, and they were pepper spraying people, and they were in military gear. They had their guns and their masks, and it was insane. And I saw that video, and it literally it brought a tear to my eye. I was tearing up over this, because this is America in 2020. What the hell are we doing? This isn't the Jim Crow South anymore. What are we doing? And Donald Trump and his people are activating this, and police officers, and I hate to say this, as pro-law enforcement as I am really upset with some of these law enforcement departments, the way they're handling these things, acting like a freaking jackbooted thug Gestapo here with people trying to vote. This is not the America that I want to live in, and this is what's on the ballot tomorrow. Right. So do not be intimidated, folks. Do not be intimidated. My mom and I were saying we don't know what we would have done if we were on the Jersey Garden State Parkway or on the Tappan Zee Bridge and these dumbasses tried to do this. Both of us probably would have gotten arrested, because I'll be damned if they were going to intimidate any of us talking about this is our bridge. This is like, get the hell out of here. But anyway, so don't be intimidated. Fuck you. Keep counting. Let's take our next caller. Hello. From Santa Cruz.
Hey, how are you?
What's your name?
I am from Santa Cruz. I'm Heidi. And first of all, I just want to thank you guys so much for keeping me sane during these crazy times. The podcast just is very soothing, so I appreciate that. So even here in, super liberal Santa Cruz, California, today when I was out walking, I saw a guy with a giant Trump flag and actually had a giant American flag, small Trump flag, and a Q shirt. So this extremism is spreading everywhere, and it's going to keep percolating up in the Republican Party and, in the Democratic Party. So I'm wondering what you guys think about ranked choice voting as a way to kind of tamp down some of that extremism in the parties and make sure that some kook doesn't win a primary with 24% of the vote.
Like in Georgia?
Exactly.
Michael Steele, you want to take a shot at that? Ranked choice voting is becoming a thing now. They've got it up in Maine, right? Yep. And Alaska, my good friend, former Governor Bill Walker, he's a big proponent of this. What say you about ranked choice voting?
Yeah, it is something that a lot of folks in the voting space have been giving more and more attention to, because what it does is it creates an avenue by which you can sort of begin to eliminate some of the fringe elements that sort of creep into the primary process. We'll see how after this election. I think there's going to be a lot of changing of how we vote in this country between now and the 2024 cycle. I'm doing a lot of work in the national popular vote space, looking at the electoral college reform by setting up a system very much like our lottery system, where the states agree to allocate their electoral college votes to the winner of the national popular vote in a presidential election. So there are a number of voting strategies that will be in play. I think you're going to see, and I'm almost certain you will hear from certain folks in the House, in the Democratic side caucus, talk about federal reforms around federal elections, meaning obviously the presidency, and what states should be doing to further encourage people to participate. So I anticipate a lot of good movement in the voting space, a lot of discussion. We've got to stay away from the fringe stuff, but ranked choice certainly is one of them. A number of us, myself included, have been advocating moving the presidential election out of the fall and into the spring, making it a national holiday. So a lot of these things that are going to be reforms looking at pushing back on what we've seen Trump and some Republicans try to do in this cycle are going to be on the table. And I think a big part of discussion, which I'm sure Lincoln Project and others will have something to say about down the road.
Well, I know that Lincoln Project, we've been talking amongst ourselves and kind of briefly tweeting things out every once in a while about the need for a new Voting Rights Act. I think that's something that's part of our future agenda, that's something that we'll be advocating for just as part of the reforms. There's so many things that this election has exposed that need to be fixed. So that's one thing there.
On that real quick, and just I'm glad you mentioned Voting Rights Act, and just to put my position on that on the table, when we do advocate for and hopefully get a new Voting Rights Act, it should apply to all 50 states in the 7 territories. No state should be exempt from it.
Absolutely,
and every state should be held.
That was the constitutional. That was the severability defect of the original. Was it only applied to the 11 southern states that were in question and Oklahoma.
Right.
And so that severability thing is why the court has basically loosened it over and over and over again. And of course, we've seen the outcome from that.
Yep.
And so, and again, folks, the Lincoln Project, we are not here as a policy organization. We're probably not going to be out there arguing about marginal tax rates or how many parts per billion of carbon or what size magazine for your firearm. But we are going to talk about the things that are fundamental, that underlie our democracy and that make it a more or less viable democracy. That's why we talk about a new Voting Rights Act. That's why we talk about an election security bill that truly cracks down on foreign interference in this country. That's why we talk about things that like returning this country's civics education budget to the states so we can teach kids what's happening here. Every election cycle, we have to re-educate people on all these things. And we've got a lot of things that we think can be done that will strengthen this republic that aren't about ideology. They are about the underpinnings, the foundational aspects of a viable democracy.
That's right. I'm glad you brought up.
Okay, I think we got another caller.
Before that, I'm glad you brought up civics because during that discussion over the weekend with the black male vote roundtable, it was painful to listen to how many of them had no idea how our system worked. And I just thought to myself, here these are multi-millionaire, successful, entertainers. They have all of this money and influence, and it only recently did they learn because their mom or their grandmother sat them down and said, this election's important, this is what you need to do and why. The rapper Yellow Pain put out a song about this, explaining some of the basics about voting and how it works, but state and local levels. This is such an epic failure of our education system. And it's only because so many people are civically ignorant that Donald Trump's been able to get away with a lot of the shit that he's gotten away with. Because if people knew and they were fully aware, they would be like, what? You can't do that. What are you doing? That's not the way our system is supposed to work. And people wouldn't you wouldn't get away with it. But he's preying on the ignorance of the American people and wants to indoctrinate people now about what it means to be a patriot. Like you talk about socialism and Marxism and all of that. That's what Trump is trying to do with people, indoctrinating them. So shout out to civic education. We need more of it. All right. Who's our next caller?
Next up, we have Richard from Gainesville, Florida, one of my favorite places in the great state of Florida.
The swamp, the real swamp.
How are you, Richard?
Pretty good. How are you doing today?
The real swamp.
I was wondering if Florida still looks good and if that's going to be a change in representation of the House. That we're going to get any pickups in the House from Florida.
I think Pam Keith has closed it up down there against Brian Mast. That's a pretty close race. Laura Loomer is not going to win. So it's
there's that.
Yeah, but look, the Democrats are estimated to win another 5 to 10 seats in the House of Representatives. Dave Wasserman, I think, has up to 15 in the House of Representatives. But I do think Florida, look, it's Florida. It's always going to be Florida. It is going to be very close one way or the other. The fall off in seniors in Florida is an unremarked effect here. I think the election day vote with seniors will drop off to where I think Biden will scooch it over the line. But folks, prepare yourselves for the recount scenario, and there are pathways, plenty of pathways for Biden to still win without Florida. If he does win Florida, if he knocks it out early,
it's over.
That is the ball game.
Right.
We're all going to just start drinking, and you're going to have lit LPTV that night.
Yeah.
Fridays,
And
it'll put Fridays to
Florida
shame.
is Florida.
Yeah.
And look,
Go ahead,
because Florida is Florida, you need to know that we have invested very heavily in building a roadmap to 270 around Florida.
Yes.
Okay. It is going to be what it's going to be. We have been there since late summer. We have helped move those senior citizen numbers to a record position for a Democratic candidate. We've been involved in trying to, what we call, correct that Cuban American vote in Miami South-Dade. We've been involved in get out the vote efforts in the I-4 corridor with Puerto Ricans, especially those who had to leave the island after Hurricane Maria. But look, the truth of the matter is we would not be good at our job. We would not be good at our job if we did not focus on finding multiple pathways around some of these key states to make damn sure that we're going to have a lock on the 270 map. And we have done that through a number of means. I still think that Florida is going to look good for Biden. If it doesn't, there's just a lot of other opportunities to get to where we need to go. Remember, Trump's got to win everything.
Right.
We just have to win the right combination of a handful of states.
And I will say this, we didn't touch on this so much earlier, but there are some states where the Trump folks keep spinning they're going to win.
Yeah.
They are not going to win Michigan.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. They're not going to win Wisconsin and Arizona and Minnesota. Right. Those states are not on the board for them. Look, Pennsylvania, Ohio, much more battleground. And I am increasingly convinced, and Mike and I have talked about this a lot, that Georgia is out of reach for Trump now. I think it's gone.
I like Georgia.
I like
bullish
Georgia.
on Georgia for a while. Keep your eyes on Georgia.
You like Georgia a lot right now.
How do you guys feel about Texas?
All right.
How do you feel about Texas before we go to the next caller? I mean, Texas
We
is
feel like it's a very large state. It's a very large state.
Come on, we have to
go
talk
to
about
Texas,
Mike, Madrid, fool's gold.
Okay, briefly, look, let's spend a little time on Texas. It's the day before the election.
Yeah.
Texas has had extraordinary turnout numbers.
Yeah.
18% of the voters who have showed up in Texas already. And remember, more voters have already cast ballots in Texas than the entirety have voted in 2016.
106%.
18% of those voters. Yeah, 18% of those voters did not vote in 2016, meaning they're either new voters or re-energized voters. That tells me very confidently those are not Trump voters. The other thing you need to remember about Texas is this. Some of those counties that have, like Bexar County and El Paso and surrounding, these are communities with high Hispanic populations. A lot of people are suggesting that the Biden campaign has not done its job on turnout. That may or may not be true. Lincoln Project came in to assist with a bunch of allies, including the Biden campaign. Truth of the matter is Latinos, Hispanics are late deciding voters. They are election day voters.
Yep.
I can't say it enough, and I can't say it loudly enough. There's going to be a very big turnout of Hispanic voters in these same counties that look like they are underperforming in these parts of Texas. Now, the Republicans have thrown absolutely everything they've got. The kitchen sink, shoes, sandals, baseball bats, and trying to prevent people from voting. They've been swatted away at every turn. There is a reason why they're doing this. They're seeing the same numbers that we are seeing. So in the final analysis, I think what this comes down to, a little bit in the weeds, but here it is. You're going to have historic Hispanic turnout. If Biden keeps the Hispanic turnout share over 33%, he's going to win Texas. If Trump is below 33%, he's polling at 27, 28% right now, Trump is going to lose Texas. That's what's going to determine it. And again, I think high turnout can't be anything but positive. The key will be whether or not Latinos turn out on election day. They've been doing it every election cycle since I started watching very closely 30 years ago. No reason to believe that that's not going to happen again.
And two more caveats. That section of Texas, hugely hit by COVID. It is a massive 911er in El Paso and those surrounding areas. And that is an incredible motivator when you're facing life or death. And Trump is directly responsible for the lack of response there. And secondly, Michael Bloomberg has decided to throw some money into Texas last minute to try to help Biden, which is always a good thing. We'll take Michael Bloomberg's money in Texas. So two big factors also to add to what Mike Madrid said. Michael Steele, go ahead.
I was just going to say to Mike's point, and if that scenario plays out the way Mike described it, you're going to see, if Texas falls tomorrow night, you're going to see Republicans in Washington just backstroke off of Donald Trump. Donald who? We don't know. We don't know Donald who. Who's Donald? Right? They won't even say the man's name, because that will be the ultimate death knell for today's GOP as it is currently formed under Trump. A lot of us I think it's 24, but if it happens tomorrow, oh baby, oh baby, oh baby.
We'll have more champagne.
Look, if Texas goes off the map, right, we'll have liver damage if Texas goes off the map. If Texas goes off the map, especially early in the evening, because every bit of Texas except that little tiny one stub of the tail is in Central. If Texas goes, we have a 1964 or 1960 64 election. Excuse me.
64 election.
We have a blowout. The 64 election. If Texas doesn't go, we may still have a 1980 election, which is a sweep, but it is not. It's not 64 part 2. If it's 1964, you will see Texas go. It's going to be tight. It's going to be 1 week. A lot of X factors there, but in an ordinary year. By the way, we would never even be discussing Texas. Right. We would bring it up. It'd be like, there it is in the column.
Yeah, Texas.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris be nowhere near Texas. They'd be flying over. They certainly landing a plane. Right. That's for sure.
That is for damn sure. All right.
I think we have one last caller.
Another caller on the line. We do.
Hey guys. Which do you think? Which one do you think is more likely, that Trump hits 270 or Biden hits 400?
Biden hits 400.
Biden hits 400.
Biden hits 400.
Because if you use a pool analogy, Trump has to literally run the table on everything that's 1 to 3%. He has to hit Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Iowa, Texas, Arizona in order to get 270.
That's right.
Yep.
And he's not going to win Arizona. He's not going to win Michigan. He's not going to win. Those are places he's just not going to win. And Nate Silver, 538, has it where, what is it, like a 11% chance or something? Because they did, or was it 538? Somebody, or Washington Post, they ran 40,000 scenarios in the model, and they took the top 100, and it put Biden's chances at something like 89%. Because of all the pathways that Biden has that Trump does not.
Yeah, there are many more ways for Biden to win this than for Trump to win this. So,
can I just say something else? I just want to ask you guys, especially you, Michael Steele, because you've lived in the DC area for a very long time. Have you ever seen on election night downtown DC boarded up?
No, I have not seen.
This is crazy.
Yeah, it is. I've not seen downtown DC boarded up since the '68 riots, and that was, as we all know, a traumatizing moment, and it was as the result of the assassination of Martin Luther King and Kennedy, and just the general consternation. But none of it was driven by the election itself, which is interesting. This election, because of the way this president has talked about it, and as we've talked earlier this evening, how he has so inflamed his supporters to go out and try to, run buses off the road and intimidate voters at the polls, etc. Business owners in the area with probably a 4 to 6 block radius around the White House have decided to board up their businesses because they do not want to come in on Wednesday or Thursday to find their businesses damaged because of folks who have it in their mind that the only way to respond to an election is to go break somebody's pane glass window. It speaks to the times we're in, folks. It speaks to why what Rick has said in his hashtag is so important for tomorrow. Fuck you, keep counting. We cannot stress that enough because I think the only way we get to the point where business owners don't have to worry about Thursday morning or Wednesday night is by voting on Tuesday, and voting in such numbers that, to Mike's point earlier, we're looking at a historic turnout of American citizens who embrace a new democracy and decide for the first time in generations that this country means more to them than Donald frickin' Trump.
Amen to that.
You're here, brother.
I think we have one last tweet.
Tweet or voicemail?
Or
fuck Donald Trump.
Well, there you have it. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
That's it.
You will have no argument here, sir.
Oh my gosh. You know what?
That was not me. Yeah. That was not me. No, I swear. Hand to God, I did not call in.
It was Abe. It was Abe. I think on that note, I think we're gonna call it a night. But there he is. There he is. He's a multitasker. We're gonna call it a night and thank our guests and do our call to action. Thank Abe. Oh my gosh, goodness gracious.
Family ever. Oh goodness.
I think he's got a future in this. If The Price is Right is ever hiring, we can send Abe on over there to be one of the Price is Right girls. All right, guys. Michael Steele, as always, a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Mike Madrid, thank you for joining us. Keep up the great work, guys. We've got a couple more hours to go before we see what this is. We'll probably see you tomorrow night as well. Before we go, we have 2 calls to action tonight. First off,
big man, I think. I don't know. Maybe you're not. But you're the big man, I think. Joe, what's that all about?
I am the big man, and that's no malarkey.
Yes, our segs never disappoint. They never disappoint.
Never fails.
Oh my
man,
goodness.
I don't know. Maybe you're not. But you're the big man, I think. Joe, what's that all about?
I am the big man. And that's no malarkey.
Oh, God. Well, if you want to literally
God bless.
boot Donald Trump out of there, you have to vote tomorrow. And if you are not registered yet, there are a few states where you can still register same day. And they are, if you live in the following states: California, Colorado, Connecticut, DC, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Iowa, Maine, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Utah, Vermont, Washington, Wisconsin, Wyoming. If you live in any of those states, you are able to register on Election Day and vote. So that's number 1. Number 2, you've heard us talk about this a lot. And it's because voter suppression has been something that's been going on in lots of places in different ways. But if you see a blatant act of voter suppression or intimidation, see something, say something, go to CSAY 2020. We've been in partnership with Democracy Labs on this amazing project. Hopefully you won't need it, but in case you do, CSAY 2020, where you can report any chicanery going on. And before we go, I want to also give a shout out to one of our super fans. We've been doing this lately. So a big shout out to Susie Homeacre. Susie, thank you so much for your love. Fan Susie Homeacre. Wilson?
All right, folks, one night to go here, one sleep till election day. Get up early, get out there, kick ass, elect Joe Biden, defeat Donald Trump. In the meantime, if you get a chance tomorrow, if you're done voting or watch it streaming on your phone, join our good friend Jennifer Horn for her show, Vote for America. You will see that tomorrow at 2:30 Eastern Time. You can find that on our YouTube channel. It's 11:30 Pacific, and you will get a lot out of it. And she'll have some breaking news tomorrow. We'll be covering some of the things that are happening out in the country as we roll toward election night. It's going to be a big night tomorrow night, so join us on LPTV tomorrow night for several hours of coverage where you will, in fact, almost certainly once again see Abe.
Indeed. And if you haven't gotten enough of me, I will be on The Real tomorrow on daytime talk television. Check your local listings. I will be on The Real, talking Lincoln Project and the election and making sure, encouraging people to go out there and vote. So check me out tomorrow on The Real. And one last thing, Abraham Lincoln said that if you want to test a man's character, give him power. And we have seen the character of Donald Trump while in power. He has failed miserably, and character matters, and it's on the ballot. And it's time to change the character of this nation back to decency. And that's by voting in Joe Biden. So any of you who are watching us tonight, if you haven't voted yet, please go tomorrow and vote and bring someone with you. Or if you are able to, go and help out at the polls, help folks who are online, volunteer in a way that's safe to help others who are doing their civic duty and helping to vote Donald Trump the hell out of there so that we can get this country and the soul of the nation back on track. So with that, I want to leave you with one of the most inspiring ads that Lincoln Project has done, one of our closing ads. We got the rights to Ray Charles' America the Beautiful and turned it into something amazing. Thank you guys and enjoy. We'll see you tomorrow night.
I wish I had somebody to help me sing this. America, I love you, America. You see, my God, he done shed his face on thee. You ought to love him for it, because he crowned my good. He told me he would. Every brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh Lord, I thank you, Lord.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
All right, Michael, it's tomorrow.
Dear Donald, we at the Lincoln Project just want to say it's okay.
Okay.
Seriously, we know you did your best.
But that was the original.
But this whole being president thing isn't for everyone.
No, get those lights off! Off!
It's the hardest job in the world.
Lucky I brought some notes.
And it takes a lot of qualities that you just don't have.
You're going to be fair.
Like compassion, human decency.
If you don't mind, Mr. President. Come on.
And basic reading skills.
Yosemites.
But don't worry, you've got so many other qualities.
Beautiful.
Like dancing. Kind of. Actually, forget dancing. But you're great at remembering things.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. Thank you, everybody.
And I'm sure your kids are going places. So don't beat yourself up. Not everybody can be a two-termer. Well, this guy was. Oh yeah, that guy too. Okay, ignore that. It doesn't matter, because losing doesn't automatically mean a loser. Or a failure. Or a national disgrace. Who even said that? Not us.
That's really bad reporting.
Well, okay, we did. And do. And will for a long time. And yes, most of America will come to the same conclusion.
We're last, meaning we're first.
And sure, historians will document you as being a blight on America's presidential legacy. And yes, future generations will refer to you as that turd sandwich that accidentally won an election one time.
And you'll develop turd, like a turd mentality.
But hey, at least you're rich. Am I right? Right?
Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Just watching my algorithms get crushed. I guess I did something to piss off the Instagram gods, so hopefully you're seeing this stuff anyway. We'll do what we can. Talk to you soon.
With your mind on freedom, vote, vote, you better vote, vote, go ahead and vote, vote. With your mind on freedom, oh, you better vote, vote, go on and vote, vote.
Lock them all up.
Donald Trump has been inciting audiences for decades.
When you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people.
Now, for the first time, all of his hits have been collected in one place.
It's a rigged election. It's the only way we're going to lose.
Donco Records presents the inspirational favorites of Donald J. Trump. 45 hits from 45 himself.
We're rounding the turn, and we are coming around. It's going away anyway. We're rounding that curve.
With unforgettable favorites like...
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss them. I don't need to wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
Get Donald J. Trump's race baiting on 12 CDRs, 45 records, or 128 singles.
Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. I'm the least racist person in this room.
You'll cherish this corpus of babbling rage forever.
COVID, 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 COVID.
But wait, there's more. Order now and you'll receive Donald Trump Sings the Songs of Love. Absolutely free as our gift to you.
Just received a beautiful letter from Kim Jong-un, and then we fell in love. Okay? No, really. I'll kiss the guys and the beautiful women and the suburban women. Will you please like me?
So please, call now for Donald Trump's inspirational favorites. Or send $45.98 for 12 CDRs in cracked slimline cases. To order, call 201-305-9163. That's 201-305-9163.